It's a fifth line day. Hello and welcome to a fifth line day. Tuesday, the 2nd of April at 13:25. The sun moves into the 21 line 5. So the fifth day is a day for practical solutions in answer to a crisis, a day where we learn that walking away after providing a practical solution can be very seductive. And the 48 wants to put its practical solutions into action here. This is what we find out today. It doesn't care whether or not it's a practical solution, it just wants to put it into action and get it out there, externalize it. The moon is taking us through the beginnings of ambition into the pressure to solve the inner mysteries before landing us back down into acceptance of our limitations. Phew. If you're ready, would you like to join me to explore this fifth line day? The 21-5 is called objectivity, and there is a lifetime learning that says the use of force must be based on impartiality and not emotionally motivated. The exaltation says the balanced ego whose willpower is applied objectively. So fifth lines are designed to be called out in times of crisis. They're designed to be our savior. And then they're designed to withdraw. Okay, this is an in and out kind of thing. It is not designed to stay in position once the solution has been provided and the crisis is over. And we're not talking about crisis of like a cosmic proportion. It could be, a bad day at the photocopier where it keeps jamming and it's causing all kinds of crisis in the department because people can't get their work done. Do people still have photocopiers? Anyway, another issue. So, but 21-5s are not supposed to be in control of anything for an extended period of time. That's not their job. Once the photocopier has been fixed, then they go back to their day job, unless their day job happens to be fixing photocopies. Okay, so, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. They're not supposed to stay in position. So in a business context, you've got a 21-5 who would be called the troubleshooter. Okay, so very practical, designed and equipped to save the day and walk away. I mean, this is a kind of mantra for the 21-5, save the day and then walk away. Whether they actually do step up to the job or not is another matter, but they are designed to do this. And when they're called out, that's when they have to use their strategy and authority to decide whether or not it is a call that they're going to answer. When they've been in that position of control, it can be very hard to walk away, because that's what they're being called out to in this gate of control. They are given this little taste of power, I suppose, in a way you could call it. But walking away, I mean, it's part of their makeup, but it's maybe not easy. And maybe people are still projecting on you. Oh, we're not done with you yet, but the crisis is over. And that you have to walk away before they start calling you a heretic. And then all sorts of other stuff comes in with that. So what the fifth line knows is that when they give up their power, after bringing their practical solution to whatever that crisis was, when they walk away, they are actually making themselves more powerful. They're making themselves much more attractive to anybody else who's in trouble. So the next time that there is a crisis, it's like, they're the ones they're going to go to. The detriment says the ego whose willpower is applied subjectively. So this is where the binary is rearing its head again. We have an objective troubleshooter and we have a subjective troubleshooter. And neither is better or worse than any other. Neither is more successful than the other. We need both experiences. Consciousness obviously requires that we have both of these experiences because they're here. Because of the projection that all fifth lines are subject to, and because of the genetic continuity, society as a whole is going to look at the fifth line and the 21-5 especially and say, you should be in control. And Ra reminds us here, Ra reminds us that the ego this is an ego gate, as we know, but the ego is very immature as a center. It's powerful, but it's immature. It takes a long time for the ego to grow up. And in a way, no, that's not its fault. It's because it's not a force that is nurtured in our world. And so very often what it meets when it goes out, the defined ego, is that it gets slapped down, or it gets shut down, or it gets, people try to reduce its power. The ego has such a bad rap. And yet we need our defined egos. We need them to be deconditioned, and we need them to behave correctly. And we need them to be emotionally impartial. And this is something that's in this line particularly. This is the lifetime learning that is going to take a while to be absorbed. Ra says that we really should do our best to nurture our 21 fives, especially the 21-5 child, because they need to learn the importance of being impartial. They need to learn the importance of being non-emotional in their control, okay, in their use of power. Because ultimately, these are the beings that are going to apply control to the rest of the world. If they're carrying this in their personality sun, for example, this is what they're here to do. He also makes the observation, that the 10th gate, all of the 10th gates, excuse me, set my alarm there. All the 10th gates together, they condition our behavior in the world. And the second gates condition our direction in the world. And the 21s, they condition whether or not our societies or our cultures are going to operate properly. So it is essential that we learn to recognize these qualities in our children and to see very clearly that 21 children, as in children with gate 21 rather than it's just, let's pick 21 children and teach them how to look after themselves in terms of control. Okay, maybe not that one. So we look after these children with the gate 21 so that they end up being productive controlling agents. So they learn how to use that energy that they have in a productive way rather than becoming really embittered and angry and unhappy because they're not allowed to take control, or they've never learned how to control their control, I suppose you could say. And then they withdraw. They take their shattered ego and they withdraw. They feel inferior. They don't want to be involved in controlling anything. And yet, if all of our gate 21s give up being in control, we're going to have then what the 6th line predicts, and we'll be looking at this tomorrow, and that is chaos. So the 48-5 is called action. And it says, this is a natural urge to apply energy to action. The 5th line, it just wants its practical solution out there. It wants to externalize it. It wants to get it into action. It wants something to happen to it. Maybe it wants it experimented on, because this is that, the whole logical thing. They like to experiment. And they don't actually care sometimes whether it's a good solution or not. They have such an urge to get their solutions out into the collective that the quality of the solution is not so important. It's just waiting to be kicked, to be called out, and then that natural urge kicks in. And of course, if they're operating correctly through strategy and authority, that's great. But if they are insecure with their depth, and that's the fear of gate 48, remember, then they can fail to take action, maybe when they're called out. And so their wonderful solutions don't go anywhere at all, which can be harmful to its reputation. If you call out a line 5, and then they don't fulfill their promise, that's not good news for their reputation. Although, of course, again, if it's through strategy and authority, then you'll get the experience you're meant to have. And if it's somehow chipping away at your reputation because that's what you're supposed to be experiencing, then that's what you'll experience. It's discerning, I guess, between whether it's mind-driven or whether it's a strategy and authority-driven. So I think the grounding of the earth to the sun here, the 48 to the 21, it maybe comes through that practicality of the 5th line. because control is an active kind of thing, really. You know, being called out to deliver a practical solution, it kind of involves action. Perhaps when there is an urge to apply energy to action, it taps into the splenic physical awareness that can support the ego as it's projected onto. Or perhaps objectivity relies on correct action. And to just play with the keynotes and see what comes out and see what resonates as well. You know, one might resonate with you and not the other, or the other way around. Find 21 children and ask them. At 7:14 this morning, the moon transited into gate 54. And this is the gate of the marrying maiden, a wonderful name for a gate, the marrying maiden in the root center. And this is tribal, and it is the gate of ambition. Okay, this is the tribe being really ambitious, wanting to get to the top, wanting to be top of the hierarchy, top of the tree or the pile, or whatever there is to be top of. This wants to be it. There are 3 channels that make up a particular stream that go from the 54 up to the 45. The 45 is the ruler. So here we have the marrying maiden who is desperately really trying to work through her gate of ambition and going then up into the ego through the channel of the transmitter and then up to become the ruler in gate 45. So you've got the concubine starts off lowest of the low, all of her ambitions becoming realized as she works with others maybe who can see her potential and who can help her rise up, so that when she gets to that place of the ruler, then she is actually top concubine, who hopefully will remember the shoulders of all the people she stood on to get to that place. So maybe this is something that could be looked at today. You know, we could focus our ambitions. The moon brings us the energy to focus. We could focus on our ambitions, or we could focus on the people who are helping us with our ambitions, or maybe people that we are helping to achieve theirs, because everything works both ways, of course. There could also be a realization that there are some people who really don't want you to realize your ambitions. Now, this is possible too. It's not always pleasant to come to that realization, but you know, it's part of life, isn't it, really? The 61 is the next moon gate, and this is at 17:07. The moon leaves the root and it goes up into the head, where we have the gate of mystery and inner truth. This is an individual gate in nature, and it's an energy that comes in a pulse. You know, and then you don't, and you don't, and you don't. Oh, and then you do again, and then you don't. And it's that pulse that comes, and it comes in its own timing. And you have got no control over when you know, or even what you know, because this can be a very inspiring gate, but you're not inspiring with things that you knew from yesterday or things you're drawing in from tomorrow. It's a very now, well, sort of energy that comes through with the 61. And it comes with a pressure as well to resolve the mysteries of life. And then we have one more. It's an early transit tomorrow. So it's actually at 2:53 GMT tomorrow morning, when the moon takes us back down into the root center again to gate 60. This is the gate of acceptance, the gate of limitation. Always an interesting process to start looking at all of the different ways limitation can be used, in that where do we limit ourselves? Where do we limit others? Where do others limit us? Where does the general conditioning field that we all live in limit us? And also to question whether we accept those limitations. Yeah, it's the gate of acceptance. Do we accept limitations that are put on us? Do we even question them? Do we even notice them enough to question them? It's, you know, bring all of these little things in, play with them, have fun with them, because yeah, it's not as overly serious business, really. So there's lots to chew on, lots and lots to chew on. As always, please be kind to yourselves. This is one of the things that Ra used to say, wasn't it? That what distressed him as much as anything when he first started teaching people human design was the lack of self-love that he found in people. And learning about our experiment, learning about who we truly are and accepting it and working with it, communicating ourselves and with others, and all of that juicy stuff is really all about loving ourselves. So be kind to your lovely self and go gently. And I will see you tomorrow as we move into line 6 of these gates, the 21 and the 48. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye now.